And we are live with Beniamin Mincu, if I spell it right, CEO, co-founder of Elrond, a project which has been making waves in France and beyond. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Sammy. Really great to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy to have you here too. So, these interviews, they usually starts with those generic questions, which are, who are you? Where do you come from? How did you get involved with blockchain? And then further, we'll explore the project. So please tell us more about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Beniamin Mincu, and I come from Romania.
Mhm.
I've been involved in the blockchain space since about 2013 when I initially stumbled into Bitcoin. Then I went deep down the rabbit hole, studied everything I could. And in 2014, I joined the NEM core team to help create another project that took off very interestingly at that time. And then in 2016, together with my brother, I started a fund, invested in probably something like 30 blockchain startups, among which some of the most interesting architectures at the time. But then the problem was that we thought there were some important problems in the space that were promised to be addressed, but no one addressed them. There was no compelling solution in the space, especially for an internet scale blockchain, a blockchain that can accommodate transactions and so forth at the internet scale. So after solving a kind of money problem with the fund, we decided to gather the strongest team we could with researchers and engineers from some of the top companies in the world, friends of ours, that with which we actually said we wanted them to be so good that we can literally build rockets if we decide to. And then, if you can build rockets, essentially everything else will be a lot easier by comparison. So, at the end of 2017, we started with this idea of building a blockchain that can bring a 2 or 3 orders of magnitude improvement in throughput, execution speed, and transaction cost, because we believed that just as we had seen in the early internet days, you really needed a transition from dial-up to broadband in order to really see the blockchain space take off. So from 2017 up until this point, we've been going through hell to deliver an even better product than we set out to. And we're super excited and super grateful to be on this journey with so many talented people, with such a large community from around the world, and to have this blockchain live. And we believe that during 2021 and beyond, we're about to see the blockchain space really take off, and I do think that Elrond will accelerate this space.
Well, that's an interesting description of the project. So you've been an investor doing venture capitalism, like seed funding of blockchain projects. You've been in contact with projects developing new method of consensus, architectures, infrastructure. And I can understand that back in the days, the ecosystem was lacking the maturity it has now. And by noticing these drawbacks, you've decided to team up with the people you've met through your experience at previous big blockchain corporations like NEM to create a new entity, a new blockchain, a new dApp platform, which will be able to be at the scale of the internet with high bandwidth and high scalability potential, if I sum it up right.
Yeah, I would say that the team is actually not from the NEM team or from
Yeah, but for example, from all the people you met in your experience, probably from also
exactly.
from Romania, from Europe, anywhere. Yeah.
Exactly. But the idea with Elrond is that we believe at this point two very important things are needed for the world. The first one is a high bandwidth, low latency financial system that can really power the world in a way very similar to how the internet works, right? And then the second element would be opening this new financial system to anyone, anywhere in the world. And Elrond is doing the first part, and it's live, and we're seeing a lot of adoption and exciting experiments. And the second element is done with Maiar, which we believe is the simplest user interface that allows us to interact with the blockchain ecosystem.
All right. So I believe that if I base myself on your vision, what is needed to make blockchain go big is simplicity combined with high efficiency. So you're ensuring the efficiency, like the throughput with the technology, the layer one. And then now you're focusing on onboarding as much people as possible by providing them with a decent experience with managing their crypto, exchanging them through the layout, which is Maiar on mobile phones. So I'm just making these sums up so people who are discovering the project through this video can have an insight. That's right.
Perfect. That's exactly right. I would say that the reason why it's so important to let the other people in is that on the one hand, we have still 1.7 billion people that don't have access to any kind of financial infrastructure. And then on the other hand, the entire blockchain space is only made out of something like 100 million people, and we're 8 billion people in the world. So it's a super crazy and large opportunity. And we believe that, interestingly enough, it's not by fighting with the other projects that we win, but by going out, building the simplest and then also most powerful product, and then inviting people from all over the world to come in and interact with the application.
All right, super interesting. So it's true that we see a lot of projects which are fundamentally good on the technical aspects, but that have, we'll call it marketing, that do not promote themselves well. And all that technology sorts of goes to waste because of the way you need to employ it, the way it is, the way they communicate about it. And it's true that in order to succeed in a modern world, a financial world, and I guess like the modern blockchain ecosystem, you also have to have an insight on how to get your product used and adopted. So I believe it's a critical aspect. We'll speak about marketing a bit later. I had a question, which I've been picking up from the community and also from myself. Why do you guys use Tolkien elements, Lord of the Rings elements, to brand your products? Where does that come from? Why?
I think there's a spirit here that is really needed. So whereas maybe mostly in the blockchain space, you see a lot of mercenaries and sharks sometimes. You maybe want to see something of a different kind. So people that really care about something, of course, if you build real valuable products, the money will also follow, and this is great. But the idea with Elrond, for instance, is that this guy was a character that was immortal, very powerful, and then still bent on doing good, determined to do something very different than many were tempted to do, right? So we thought this was a good aim, and the other characters are going in a similar direction.
All right. So to be honest, I am myself. There is not a day on which I mean, like, there's not a day when I open my Twitter and I don't see a tweet about an announcement on the Elrond network or someone tweeting about Elrond. That's actually, at the beginning, it's funny to have to put some context to it. My relationship with Elrond was just, I didn't know the project. I just knew it from afar. And I was just, sometimes I go live and I have a lot of people just putting me Elrond in the commentary section. I'm like, guys, what's up? What's that, guys? And there is a meme which is online on which I rage about it. And that's how I listened to the people and I decided to make this interview with you. And then I started to take interest in the project. And I must admit that it's really interesting. It's really interesting the way everything is being carried out. But I had a few questions on how you guys stand out on a few aspects. And another one, which I will ask right now, how do you guys achieve such reach? How do you guys got like 100,000 people on my yard while a lot of blockchains struggle just to get a few thousands wallet up in a year? What I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think very few people appreciate what it means to be able to bring 160,000 people in 1 week and a few days in this new product. This is literally crazy, and I think it's because people see and feel that here something is different, that someone is really putting a lot of thought into the product, in what's being built, and that we are listening to the people's feedback. So if they discover something interesting that can be improved, that we can change, we always like to take note, we always like to get feedback, and then we want to interpret that feedback and transform it in the best product for the user. And I do think that this year will be a crazy challenge for us to demonstrate how fast you can really grow with a blockchain product, where you bring the normal and average internet user in the space. And if we can achieve this, I think Elrond will be a wave that will lift all boats. So it's not about Elrond against Bitcoin or Elrond against Ethereum, or the killer, who's the killer of Ethereum. This is sort of stupid and counterproductive to frame things like that, because it means you're just playing a zero-sum game. It means I just want to steal a bit from Ethereum and steal a bit from Bitcoin, and this is everything I see. In fact, I believe that we're in front of a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity where billions of people will come in this space and will discover it just as they discovered the internet in the early days. But it means that we also need to push to a degree that has not been done before. And I can tell you, we have a lot of announcements, a lot of progress, but people sleep very little at Elrond. So to make this happen, we have a very resourceful team that's pushing on all levels. Just as we push on the technical side, we're pushing on the UX side, and we're pushing on the communication side. So we're quite happy if the community sees this, and in fact, we've seen that the community feels this and takes things even to the next level. So quite excited with all of this.
Yeah, because the fear is that there are also a lot of projects, historically we've seen it, that gather a lot of momentum and just happen to lose the interest of their users and still exist, but with low interaction. And sometimes these projects are qualified as ghost chains, while fundamentally they're pretty interesting, actually. But it's just that, they didn't catch the wave. And I believe that one of the hardest things is, of course, to create a product that is solid and then to have people onboarded on it. But it's actually pretty hard also to maintain people giving an interest to the product, And I wanted to ask you, what is the current state of live decentralized applications on Elrond? Any big projects incoming? I personally have been looking for DeFi on Elrond. I believe that there are partnerships that are starting, but is there volume being locked? What is going on this aspect on NFT? What is practically going on the Elrond network? What is planned? I believe that there are a lot of incentives for a developer to build on Elrond, given the amount of wallet that there is. But it's like it's taking time to go live. How is it going on right now?
Sure. So the idea is this: it's not, the difficulty is not in putting a product out. The difficulty is thinking things through and thinking what's the next step after you put it out, and how do people come in, and why is it valuable or useful for the people to be in. And so we've thought a lot about these aspects and have created an ecosystem that is not only internet scale in terms of performance, but has also the right incentives, because we have 30% royalty fees built in for the authors of smart contracts. And then we have a set of tools that are very, very useful and interesting. I think you wanted to say something maybe about the royalty fees.
Yeah, you read my. I mean, I was actually thinking of staking, but what you mean by royalty fee? It means that if I deploy a smart contract or an application, I get 30%. I don't get the concept.
So the author of a smart contract in Elrond gets 30% of all the fees processed by that smart contract embedded in the code directly.
Oh,
So
that's pretty cool. Instead of full miner, full stakers, there's a part that is. Oh, that's pretty interesting. So yeah, sorry. Yeah. All right.
yeah, and then beyond this, we have a set of tools that are extremely interesting in the sense that they're trying to simplify the entire onboarding so that developers can immediately start building an application, can leverage the platform and do it very, very fast. But beyond this, I believe that there are a few things that will really matter. And it's not necessarily where the majority is going. If you take a look at Elrond, we try to be not only different for the sake of being different, but actually because we believe that the path to this global adoption will be through a few steps that we're trying to make happen. And one of these aspects is related to adoption. Adoption, it's interesting to define why people call the chains that do not have adoption ghost chains. So they call them ghost chains because you essentially build some tools or something that's not used at all. And the interesting thing for Elrond is that we've had the launch since July 31 last year. And during the 6 months since the launch, we've had something like 1 million transactions and about 115,000 accounts created. And then with Maiar, in only 5 days, we've passed 2 million transactions and 200,000 accounts created. And now we're above 300,000 accounts created and something like more than 2.5 million transactions. So this is what adoption really means at scale, where in 1 week you do as you did in half of a year. And this should draw a lot of attention because what we've built with Maiar is essentially to be able to offer to the user what we have with the hero tag. For instance, we've built a distributed DNS system. So it's the entire system that is used on the internet, just this time on the blockchain, so that you can, under a username, put addresses, not only for eGold, but for Ethereum, for Binance, and very soon for Bitcoin, and for whatever other coins that we really want. But essentially, by doing this, we enable everyone to really interact with the hero tag and to start to understand, okay, so I can send to any friend of mine to his @hero tag, just as I do on Twitter or via email. And then he suddenly can start interacting with this, have some fun. And next thing you know, he understands the other things or takes a look at them. So we're trying to push extremely hard on this part, because once you have the simplicity and have hundreds of thousands of users, putting in a DeFi module within the Maiar app is the simplest thing possible, right? But then you have the user, then the user can give you feedback. Everyone is within the application. You just add another module and then another module, and it's much simpler than doing it via web, where if you take a careful look at most of the DeFi applications, you'll see that they have something like between a few thousand users, some of them hundreds of users, which is crazy. So a few thousands of users and maybe 10 or 20,000, which is very small, right? For a space that we believe makes a lot of noise. So what we believe is that if we address simplicity, we'll be able to build each of these modules within Maiar with a speed that we've not seen, and with the satisfaction of the user and retention of the user that is really, really interesting. Beyond this, there are, of course, more than 120 partners that are building on Elrond, integrating Elrond in some particular way. There are more than maybe 15 or 20 projects specifically doing DeFi stuff, whether it's swaps or DEXs or different DeFi, either DeFi staking, DeFi lending, or stable coins. All of this are coming in and are in the process of being deployed on Elrond. Beyond this, of course, we have projects like Orion, which try to be a kind of meta liquidity pool between centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges, enabling people to trade and exchange value in a new way. And of course, we have even larger collaborations that we've announced in the past, something like Binance's stablecoin that is soon coming live on Elrond, and some other integrations that are especially going towards either the financial aspects or different other aspects that we've announced during the last period. But especially during the current period, we're at the point where we have 100 days of hypergrowth. And this is, of course, very, very intense because you basically need to push a lot of valuable things out and so forth. But I think this is a challenge to reinvent ourselves, to really deliver new value, to get the community excited, to help on board a lot of projects that are looking for a real solution to build on. And I think we're just about to see how the world starts discovering Elrond, right? Because up until this point, most people have not heard of Elrond. There are a few countries where we're a lot more popular, like France, like Turkey, like Romania, and Europe, maybe mostly. We've seen that in the US, things are picking up as well. But we're at a very, very early stage. And I think 2021 will be the year where we discover not only that an internet scale blockchain is really needed, but that once you deploy the first Elrond swap or Elrond lending module, things are going to explode insanely just because they really can flow for the first time, right? And we are working on a lot of things on this front. We're just trying to push them out as they are ready.
All right. So there is kind of a rigorous and slow approach when it comes to pushing out products. And so first, you've been focusing on deploying the mainnet on mid-2020. And I guess that's not a lot of time since the launch of the mainnet, and it takes a lot of time to build new stuff. And then there has been the Meyer app. And then once enough people are getting used to the Meyer app and to the basic function of transacting and exchanging value, for instance, you would start deploying more intricate applications and find the smartest ways to make them accessible to someone who has very limited insights with instruments, financial instruments, and everything. So by picking this slow approach, you would make sure that these new applications that are deployed do not go to waste. But aren't you afraid that everything relies too much on the mobile client, and that people who would build desktop applications would be bottlenecked? I mean, how would you give visibility to independent developers on the Meyer app? Like, will the first swap be embedded in the Meyer? How about the 10 people who would decide to make a swap? Isn't it like yeah?
No, I think so. First of all, I would say that we're not slow. In fact, we're one of the fastest and most hardcore teams in the space. But in addition to being very speedy, we're trying to put a very thoughtful approach into the design of the products, so that, as I said, once they're launched, they really take off and they don't just die down. So what we're trying to do is understand that first, there is no either or approach. So we don't have to choose between Maya or the other projects. In fact, this is a community. The software is open source. We are supporting, not only supporting, but very much encouraging all the interesting and smart people to start building. In fact, we offer a lot of other support if we see that they really mean it and want to put the effort there. And we indeed will integrate some of these products that are being built either by the community, and if we would always prefer that products are built by the community. Only if we don't see a problem being solved and we see that it's really needed and no one is really addressing it, at that point we will say, okay, we cannot wait another 5 years until someone stumbles upon it, but let's encourage the entire community to build. Let's bring all the developers we can, but in addition, let's also bring this new product to life that brings a lot of users in, because the idea, and this is I think the most special thing for developers, is that if you could offer developers something similar to an iOS app store for the dApps, at that point things would explode in a way where it would be incomparable to anything in any other ecosystem, right? So this is why we understand that, as you remember, maybe most of the applications in the internet space at first don't focus on the business model. They focus on getting the users. If you get enough users, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, you can build any type of business model. This is the key. While most of the, let's say, finance guys focus on the business model and kill the growth, we understand that if we get the users and the users are happy, then we can have the dApp store, we can have some other cool applications, and we can help this ecosystem bloom in a way that maybe no other ecosystem has.
That's really an interesting vision, which didn't pop to my mind, to distribute like decentralized applications. And I believe that, I mean, I personally love other sharding platforms like Near. They also have this decentralized domain name service when they associate any address to something .near. But I can recognize that there is a big problem with communication, and it's really, really, really interesting how you guys are putting yourselves at the spot of the potential user of the blockchain to this level. I must admit that it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting, and I'm really looking forward to see what will come up next. And another point, which I've also been picking up from the community, is that, you know, decentralized network can be qualified as nice if it is inclusive, whether it is in its usage to hold a wallet, to have a wallet, and in its validation process. It is true that Elrond Eagle token has experienced a huge surge over the past weeks, and now running a full node is an expensive venture. Do you plan on reducing these requirements since you have this adaptive sharding, which more or less allows you to welcome more nodes? Do you have any projects so that people can integrally validate without staking together?
Yeah, this is a great question, actually. In fact, Elrond, I think, is the most democratic chain out there, because when we started, an Elrond node was $500. So just think about it, how crazy it is. And we wanted it to be so low that anyone, literally anyone in the world could really come in, have a node, and so forth. Of course, adoption brings some interesting problems, right? Prices go up, and then a node all of a sudden is $250,000, $300,000. So what we are thinking is, of course, making sure that validation is open, and it's currently discussed if we want to change the amount there, or then delegation is open to anyone, and we're lowering the barrier so that anyone that wants to join can join via delegation with a very, very small minimum amount. And I would say that in the next probably 2 to 4 weeks, we have perhaps one of the largest mainnet upgrades in terms of staking, where the entire network is going fully decentralized. We're going from 2,169 nodes to 3,200 nodes that will be entirely run by the community. Fully and entirely. And I think with this, we will probably be the largest decentralized network, not only the most scalable, but also with very interesting distribution dynamics.
All right. Well, that's something I'll watch. I'll monitor carefully, because like a lot of blockchains which propose high performance sometimes tend to be lacking in this decentralized ideal. I'm personally a partisan of the fact that you have to make sacrifice if you want to achieve great performance. And it doesn't mean that a few validators are geographically centralized, that it's a disaster, because what are the odds that your transaction doesn't get broadcasted or censored because they all agree that you shouldn't be using the network, especially when the tags do not link sometimes to a proper ID? I believe that UX should be put in front of decentralization, and then you should do tweaks progressively to find tricks to make your network more decentralized. So yeah, we'll see. But a lot of blockchain is true, which have high performance, tend to have all the nodes in one same building, like silo, and it really of course allows them to have a huge throughput. But I'll be looking forward to this update. And I would like to get back with a few questions about yourself, and a few advices that you can share with the community. First question: do you hold Bitcoin?
I do have some Bitcoin from I think early 2017. So I basically had an interesting fund together with my brother, and when we started Elrond, we basically stopped everything. We basically did not manage or touch anything in that aspect, and said all the focus will be on Elrond. If we can deliver with Elrond, then basically nothing else matters. But I think we do have some Bitcoins since before 2017.
All right. So a main focus on Elrond, but you've said that Elrond is not like a competitor to Bitcoin or Ethereum. There is some kind of complementarity between all these assets. And do you see Bitcoin still in the future as an icon, like a critical store of value? You don't want to get more exposed to that given its scarcity, which I believe Elrond has been inspired by reducing the supply.
I do think that in the future, Bitcoin will still be a multi-trillion-dollar asset. In fact, I also think that Ethereum will continue to exist and probably will be a multi-trillion-dollar asset, because this it seems to me that both of these cultures have achieved a kind of critical mass, and we're not about killing what works and what has brought contributions to the space. In fact, I can say that Satoshi Nakamoto and Vitalik both had great contributions to the space and deserve serious credit with their communities for what they've done, because if they would not have made the steps, we would not be here having this conversation today. So on that front, I think there's a lot that they've done. But then on the other hand, I do think that we can take things to the next level, where if we really bring the next billion people in the blockchain space, both Bitcoin and Ethereum will grow thanks to Elrond and Maya. And it's this type of complementarity that I see driving the next massive wave of adoption, because I think Elrond can become even larger than Bitcoin and Ethereum, provided that we keep focus and continue to deliver on this vision.
All right, very interesting. Fair enough. And well, you've stated it. You're driven and more focused with your brother. I mean, like, you're more into Elrond. But do you happen to have any other projects or initiative in the crypto space which you're endorsing or watching? This is not a financial advice. Feel free to speak.
No, I mostly focus on Elrond because at this point even before we started Elrond, we did not start Elrond from a financial standpoint. So we were doing very, very good with the fund. In fact, I think we exceeded probably the best funds in the world during the period that we had ours. Then at the point where we reached the point where money did not matter, we decided to really solve these issues. So I would say that money does not move me at this point to take a look at things, but there are some other areas that I believe blockchain will have a huge impact in. And for those, we're preparing something with Elrond. But about this,
I mean, as a speculation, of course. I just meant like, isn't there like, let's say the graph? I'm sure the graph will have an incentive to build on Elrond to index the blockchain, so it's easier to query data and build on Elrond as it plans to be cross-chain. There is no like technology that has been getting your attention lately.
Oh, so you mean technologies that could help in some ways? I'm
Yeah,
sure.
or new stuff in crypto that you like. It can be a project, or just a protocol, or just a patent, whatever. That was well.
Yeah.
But
I would say that I focus. Yeah, I focus so much on stuff. There are a few things that we are discussing. For instance, of course, DeFi, I believe, will have a huge impact. It's just that it has gone in the wrong direction. So just used by sort of short-term impulsive people to drive some particular narratives. And I don't think this will last, but the underlying technology, I think, is very, very important. And if you can put it in a layer that's doing good, like Maiar, I think this could be something fundamental, where everyone in the world has access, for instance, to some kind of loan in an automatic, decentralized fashion. This is something that would help a lot of people if it would be done right. So the DeFi space, of course, is interesting. Interoperability will be key for the future, but we're trying to think. If you zoom out, the idea is what will be the technologies that will still stand out in 10 years or 20 years when you look here, and even more important, maybe what are the technologies that you could really put on the scale of evolution, and at that point most of the noise disappears, right? So there are things that are exciting, like a lot of tools that are going to come to Elrond, a lot of tools that we're collaborating with, we're excited about. But I'm also trying to think much more longer term. Okay, what happens when we have the first 100 million people on Elrond? What would be needed at that point, and so forth. So yeah, I would say that I spend other than I have a very good overview of the entire market. Everything that's moving, I have sort of a good overview on. But I try to think even beyond what we see immediately.
All right, that's wonderful. I will close like with a few last questions about like, yeah, any book that you would recommend, any recommendation, site, book, inspiration.
Sure. I think books are super critical. So at Elrond, we've put from the beginning a lot of effort into discussing and bringing a few books that have had a huge impact on what we're doing and how we're approaching things. One of these books is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. It's extremely interesting because it takes a kind of philosophical approach to startups and then drives some points that can be generalized to other systems, not only startups, but maybe religions and so forth. So he has this very interesting approach. And I think it's a very good book also because it differentiates between technologies that just try to replicate what exists in the world and technologies that take something that did never exist and create it from scratch and then open up an entire new space.
All right. That's interesting. So 0 to 1 from Peter Thiel. And also, like, anything like the last question would be, is there anything that we should look forward to in Elrond, like in the near future? Do you have any big announcement for the French community and perspectives to share with us, please?
I think we'll have something very interesting for the French community soon. It's going to be really, really exciting. But what I would say and encourage everyone is to try out Maiar. Maiar is out. Get your hero tag. Share it on Twitter, and the Elrond community will come and spread some love. And I think we're going to see some very interesting use cases. In fact, we've seen one guy from the French community who is a cook, who was doing a Twitch cooking, and then he had his Maiar hero tag, and the entire Elrond community came there, tipped him. He was super friendly, super excited, and yeah, I think this is going to be the one thing that allows instant integration without anything changed on the technology side. So this is something that I think we'll see a lot of cool experiments about.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think we've covered quite a few aspects about Elrond. It was pretty cool to have this chat with you, Beniamin. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sammy. And yeah, really, really great to have this conversation.
Well, pleasure is shared, and I hope to welcome you again here. See you soon.
Thank you.